Recently, CCP has made a competition to construct the worst ship fit. It is important to know that this is the worst ship fit that actually works. The goal is to PvP in what many, at first glance, would assume is the worst ship fit. They mention things like combat industrials or disaster fits you never undock with. At the same time, they mention bonus points for long engagement kills and whole tank vessels. I'll be honest, if you succeed at these, your ship really isn't a bad fit, is it? I think we get what CCP means though. They want unconventional, unique, and unexpected. And boy, do I have an answer. In fact, CCP has created a competition of something that I like to do a lot, and the fact that I do this so often is probably why I have a 50% efficiency in Z-kill. There are so many ways to make a bad fit. I personally would say a bad fit is a fit that fails at what it was created for. If you're making something that is supposed to PvP and you absolutely fail at that, then you've probably made yourself a bad fit. And in addition, if it's a really expensive fit, that's just the final nail in the coffin. So instead of this becoming a competition of who can just be the biggest idiot, CCP has given us, which I'm assuming our metrics we're supposed to meet because it's the only guidance we have, and those metrics that we're supposed to meet are, well, long engagement, kills, and apparently a whole tank. Because there's no official guidelines for this really, just their suggestions, I've decided to make a ship fit that I think would be interesting. It's not great, because I'm not spending a lot of time on this, but it's not terrible. And I know the name of the competition is the worst ship fit, but let's be honest, no one wants to watch your combat industrial fit with one polarized gun die to a single hit of a rifter, do we? With this in mind, my original thought or idea was to make a small gun Naga with active hull tank. However, after looking at the fit for a little bit, I decided against this because, let's be honest, active hull tank just exists for very extreme niche scenarios where you're stuck in a wormhole and need to repair your little bit of hole. Because in any combat scenario, that's not going to work at all. And also, CCP, while we're on the topic of active hull tank, why the heck do capital remote hull repairs exist? What are they for? Who is going to fit a remote hull repairer on their force auxiliary? Regardless of whatever those were designed for, active hull tank is just in a terrible place, and while technically fitting it to a ship would be a terrible fitting decision, it's not going to really do anything except take up some capacitor and prolong your death by what, 500 health? Not even. Now, hull tanking actively definitely wasn't going to be a thing, but fitting a hull tank buffer very well could be. I decided not to do a small gun attack battlecruiser because the idea just really isn't original anymore. Extra Squishy's done a video on it already, which means that if I do it, everyone's going to assume I was just ripping off his idea. So moving on from attack battlecruisers, I decided to take a look at the Praxis. For pretty much the only reason being, it's a battleship that costs 90 mil. When I first looked at the Praxis, my original idea was fitting it with small guns. The issue with this is it very much limits your range, and if you get kited, which is very, very popular in the current meta, you're not going to be able to do anything about it. However, the Praxis does have a decently sized drone base capable of launching up to 4 heavy drones at once. But the issue is, only light drones are really quick enough to catch up to small stuff, and even then, if you're being kited by a Garmer, your warriors might not be able to catch up. I decided to see what would happen if I stuck some navigation computers onto there as well as tracking links. Would the drones be able to go fast enough to catch up to cruisers or frigates? Perhaps would they even be able to apply? I continued with the whole drone thing. I got rid of my guns, I got rid of the shield tank, I stuck on reinforced bulkheads and heavy newts. And I had a ship that was ready. And sure, it's not as terrible as it could be, but let's be honest here, it's not a really good or amazing ship fit. It's quite trash. But it's like pulling a really, really old computer out of the garbage. It's unexpected and it's kind of cool, but it still is trash and it's going to absolutely suck at trying to do things you want it to do. And that's kind of what I had with this Praxis. It was cool, it was neat, it was definitely fun to fly, but it wasn't good. I could have definitely done a lot better in pretty much any other ship. And with some more tweaks, some more tank, and maybe some support, this ship could probably work quite well. But by doing that, probably wouldn't be in the spirit of the worst ship fits. So, it was good enough, and I decided to head out from Jita directly to Tama. And I forgot that the Praxis had a frigate bay. Deciding to keep in with the theme of terrible ship fits that actually aren't that bad, I decided to go with the Brawling Slicer. This thing is amazing in Plexes because not many people expect the Slicer to be AB scram fits, and to tank so much. I got invited to a fleet with the Hyperion and a Praxis, and not being a complete idiot, I made sure to set my safety to green. It turns out they were attempting to filament me, and while that would have been an easy and quick way of ending the video, it definitely would have been a fight where I would have gotten a kill. I guess what they say about Concord never forgetting is true, but I also say Concord's kind of incompetent, and that definitely is the case here where they web me into warp. Tama, in recent times, hasn't been as active as it always was, but it's still a pretty good place to go to die, and let's be honest, that's what I was aiming for here. I wasn't really expecting to kill anyone, but if that happened to happen, that would be neat as well. The one sad thing about this is the Praxis, while having one of the fastest locking speeds of any battleship, especially with that Seabow I fit onto it, still isn't quick enough to catch evil suspect Asteros. Jumping into Tama, I was met with my first fight, you could call it. A stabber. Now, this wasn't really insane or cool or anything, considering the stabber jumped gate as soon as I began shooting him, but it did give me a good sense of how well my drones were going to apply to, I guess, a stationary cruiser. Now, this is where I meet Mr. Deismos. Mr. Deismos is currently, unknowns to me, also competing in the worst ship competition. Now, to me, I was expecting the Deismos to be fit with medium guns, but looking at his ship, I quickly realized that's a small gun Deismos, and a fight that I'm willing to take. I did forget about sentry guns being a thing, and had to warp off and warp back to reset their aggro. Those sentry guns would have definitely done a lot more damage than the Deismos would have. I was worried about him chewing through my light drones or my medium drones pretty quickly, especially with his small guns, but throughout the fight he focused on trying to kill me instead of trying to take out my drones. Now, I know CCP had a whole little mini sentence about no collaboration, and I promise the fleet I get invited to, I had no idea I would be getting invited to that. I was 90% sure that that was a trap. Pretty quickly here, we have a four-way brawl. Me truced with these guys in Hecates and Destroyers against the Deismos against a bunch of people in Kaiti Cruisers. I'll be honest, I don't really know if those were the splits, but at least from my perspective, that's what it looked like. I'll be honest, I was kind of expecting my new fleet friends to betray me as soon as they killed the Deismos. However, that would have gone very much in my favor, and that's probably why they didn't. Am I a coward? Yeah, probably. But I didn't die to them, and I'm also now able to repair my hull and get back in the fight. I decided instead to begin fighting the other cruisers that had landed, and it turns out that the medium drones honestly weren't terrible. It turns out that the medium drones caught up fine and were doing a lot of damage, especially to the Osprey Navy issue, who had to warp off. At this point, I was kinda regretting not fitting a point, but that's how life is. I'll be honest, the carries with sensor dampeners that made my locking range 16 kilometers is easily what annoyed me the most this fight. And let's be honest, you're probably tired of hearing my voice, so how about we just watch what happens? Repaired, refueled, and armed with a bunch of new friends, I decided to see if I could continue the fight. They all have de-aggressed at this point, so I decided to warp off and warp back, seeing if maybe I'll land at a better range, or maybe they'll follow me. And follow me they did, with a much bigger fleet than I was expecting. I did try to MJD, being the coward I am, but the Dominics got scrambled on time, and that was GG. My slicer did tank a lot more than I was expecting it to, but that turned out only to be because the Osprey Navy issue was in the middle of a reload. As soon as he started shooting me again, that was it, and that ship died as well. Overall, I'm not as positive, but I definitely had a ton of fun doing that, and it was a unique challenge, flying a ship that I knew was suboptimal. And it's something that I might do more in the future. I'm definitely going to take a second look at this sort of praxis fit though, because I do think there's room for improvement into making it an actual decent ship.